think this is the right one. I'm not sure which one should be on there now. Hang on, which one is that? I think I need to put this one on there. Background. I'm going to add a background just so I can put this on there. Where's it gone? Western Supermare. There you'll do. Create background. And I'll put the other one back on there. Create background. I apologise, and I will tell you what is going on in the background on here. Create background. Right, so I'm going to put this one on there, I think, as we speak. Let me hit my little button, and hopefully you can still hear me. Right, so I'm just going to talk. I just want this flashing up on the screen, and I'm going to talk through it. English Constitutional and Common Law Seminar. Everyone welcome. £10 on the door. If you want to donate more, you can. If you've got no money, I'm not. Listen, it's about education. This is the English Constitution Society. Qstoke Village Hall, Crooks Lane, Qstoke, Western Supermare, BS22, 9XJ. Self-determination is the #1 human right. I'm hoping everyone can see that on their screen. All right. So I'm going back to the live chat at the moment. Can you all now see me? That's better. I've started to see people kicking in both sides. All right, so what I'm going to do now is take myself back to my camera. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world. There's a few things that I wanted to explain. I'm trying to find a video that I wanted to play you, right? And I can't find a thing. It's really annoying because it basically told you everything that was going on, but in a deeper level. I'm not sure where I saw it, but I've tried to look in my search or my history on my YouTube, and I can't find it. But it's really important that you see it in full. It's only a 10-minute video, but it definitely goes to the heart of what's going on now, right? And it's all old clips. In fact, I'm going to see if I can. Let me see if I can just find this, right? I'm not sure if you saw. I am going to show you this. So just to let everyone know, in case you didn't know, I have got 3 prolapse discs, and one of them is touching my sciatic nerve, right? So do you remember when I was sitting there and I was in pain, and at one point I was laying on the floor screaming, and Janet was like, "Oh, we'll call an ambulance." And I was like, "I know what this is. I just need to take the muscles off because they're in spasm." And I've explained to people it's like sticking something in a nerve. So it is pretty nasty, but I don't know what's going to go. I'm going to send the scan results to Dr. Glidden and say, right, let's sort this one out, shall we? See what happens. But everyone out there listening, can you all see and hear me? Don't forget, sharing is caring. Don't forget to subscribe, which is really important, especially on Mumble. We want to get this well in excess of 10,000 in the next 6 months or so. There's a lot of things going on which I'm going to go into, but I want to try and show this video. And it was basically, I wonder if that's it. That's it. I found it. I think I found it. I think it's for 19 minutes. I don't really want to get into too much, but it's a secret military coup against the British Prime Minister, and it was called Clockwork Orange. I'm not sure. I don't think I showed this to you the other day. This is what. Are you on 412 tonight, DD? Yeah, I am. Is the answer. I am on 412 tonight. And don't forget, it is a Good Friday. So best wishes to all the Christians and the pagans and anyone else that Christians are delighted to welcome, except for people that want to do us harm, right? I think Christians need to buck their ideas up and go back to the true spirit of Jesus Christ. He was a pacifist, but being a pacifist doesn't mean you allowed the rape of your women and children and people that want to do you harm to be in your vicinity. The English have never done that, right? We even used to have the hue and a cry in England, which means you raise the alarm. We had the watch and ward, which is why people can create their own security systems in England. And as long as you stay within the law, meaning self-defence and your constitutional and right as an Englishman to arrest people if you see a crime being committed, right? Let me have a look. Okay, DD525 and the following is right. So I'm now seeing it on the English. Happy Easter to everyone. I'm seeing it on the full English show. So there's a few things that I want to show. I don't know what to do about this, but what I might do is just pull this up again. English Constitutional and Common Law Seminar. Everyone welcome. £10 on the door. Keystoke Village Hall, Crooks Lane, Keystoke, Weston-super-Mare, BS22 9XJ. You can stop the video, get the details of that, come along. And just to make sure, we want to do these all over the country. And in particular, shire by shire. So if anyone wants to do one, all you've got to do is contact us. All the details are going to be out there. We are and have set up the English Constitution Party and the English Constitution Society as the educational element, shire by shire. In other words, there are a big group of shires. We want people to contact us. There are people in the audience that do want to run their own. So, for example, Cumberland or Cumbria, they can have their own English Constitution Society, Constitution Party area. You can stand for us. You can support us, and we've got no objections for as long as it's on the right lines. Standing for other political parties, we've got no objections to you standing for Restore Britain, because Restore Britain is Restore England and Restore Cumbria and Restore English constitution rights and removing the British establishment's stranglehold or the British regime's stranglehold on England and on Scotland. But remember, Scotland is a common law jurisdiction, right? And it's really important. I've got that new book that was 1788, and people will be amazed at what that guy says in that, talking about the difference between the common law and the Roman law. And basically, he said that every republic in Europe has failed because it was a Roman law system. The only one that has ever succeeded is the English common law system, right? And the reason is because it is the people that control the separation of powers. And he goes through that in the book. So again, when I write my book, all of these elements are going to be in there, and you'll understand the importance of England, and we are the beating heart of the United States of America. We are being attacked. We are under attack. There is, in my opinion, no need for violence if we come together as the English and retake England. And I believe we can do it, right? So there is a strategy for that. And I am quite willing and open to sit down and talk to every person who wants to run their own shire network, right? They've got to be good people. It takes a lot of effort, I'll tell you, right? It takes a lot of effort. Listen, if other people come along that are 1,000 times better than me, I've not got a problem with that. I haven't got an ego. All I want to do is take back England. and I hope and pray that we do it without violence, because the British have a monopoly on violence. They have disarmed the English. This is almost a rerun of the Glorious Revolution, and I intend to make it as bloodless as possible. So there's a few things I want to talk about briefly. Don't forget, sharing is caring. I'm going to briefly have a conversation with you all about Israel. I've seen a lot of things coming in from different directions. I've actually had a conversation with someone about Israel, and it's not difficult to understand if you think about it in the right context. Britain and America are controlled by the Jewish mafia, right? The people responsible for flooding all these Mohammedans into, particularly England, right, are the Jewish mafia. They are massively overrepresented, and I'm also talking about the Jesuits, right? Another group of people. They are very dangerous. Not normal Catholics, not normal Jews. I'm talking about the Jewish mafia and the military ring of the Roman Catholics. They both want a Roman law system, right? And it's part of what they're trying to do with destroying England into regions, which is why it's so important to promote the shires and counties of England. If I could go completely back to the counties, the shires of England, I would, right? And we are going to take back Middlesex. It's crucially important to England. And Devon, Cumbria, and many other places need protecting. And an education system needs to be set up so people start to understand what it is. It's not difficult to understand, but it's getting through the psyop of the British regime. Now, getting back to America being controlled by Israel, it is controlled by Israel. As far as I know, the only person that is not controlled by Israel is Thomas Massey, right? He's the only one who's never took a dollar off of Israel. This is my personal opinion, and I could be completely wrong. So let me just say, whatever's going on in the background now, I'm going to say a couple of things to you. Watch the water, and we're leaving Israel to last. There's a reason why Israel has not been mentioned, right? You all know what I'm speaking about, right? Or should do. Q, right? Watch the water could relate to the desalination plants. And leaving Israel to last means that they have taken back control of certain elements. Now, I don't know the full situation that's going on out there. What I do know is that a highly coordinated attack by Iran on Israel wiped out 60% of their, whatever you want to call them, I'm not an expert in the military, strike force, F-35, super jets, got all sorts of protections. The particular airport that they was at, or the Air Force area that they was at in Israel, is one of the most protected sites in the whole of the Middle East, bearing in mind the situation you've got in the Middle East. Yet 40, and this is true, by the way. Media's not talking about it. Grok won't talk about it. No one's talking about it. That's why I don't particularly trust Grok. 40 of those aircraft have been completely and utterly destroyed. So have their hangars, the advanced protection hangars that they've got there. Evidently, that airport is in complete ruin. 60%, right? So Israel was bullying, in effect, the Middle East. Something is going on that we're obviously not being told about, right? And I want people to understand this. I'm not having a go at everyday Jews. Putin told Jewish Russians to leave Israel 18 months ago, maybe even longer than that. he told them to leave Israel, come back to Russia, right? He didn't say any more than that. He just said that. It is my opinion, and it is only in my opinion, after seeing the top senior officer in the USA Army sacked, 10 other senior officers sacked and removed, they are initiating something where they can do a withdrawal. I just want to make sure you're clear on this. And I'm talking about the Americans. They will then blame the previous administration for putting in traitors and idiots with no skill set via DEI, right, into top military positions where they did not understand war, did not understand the intelligence and the intelligence coming through, and in some cases completely ignored it. This is what I think is happening, right? They have also destroyed, meaning Iran has also destroyed a destroyer, a very advanced warcraft or warship, right? They took it out 600 kilometers away from the theatre of operation when it was refueling. It was in its most vulnerable position, and so someone's just said, I thought he resigned. If someone rings you up and says, resign immediately, yeah, you only resign because it allows you to keep your pension rather than be sacked. But he resigned immediately, right? The Americans are taking losses. I don't know the full strength of what's going on, right? That part of it, I sort of understand it and don't understand it. But my opinion is that they are going to continue to take out certain aspects of Israel to the extent that they can no longer defend themselves against the Arab states, let's put it that way, or Persia. I think the overall strategy of this situation is to take the Levant and the wider area back to its original domains before the British created Saudi Arabia, created Iran, created all these areas. That's what I think is going on. I think it is taking down that system that the British put in place and have technically caused all the problems that they've got there now, right? There's some very odd things that I'm going to say now, and I have mentioned it on the show before. I personally believe that a lot of these Jews are moving back into Ukraine, and I think Russia has said, fuck off, that ain't happening, right? And I believe they've had to look at a situation, nothing to do with Canada, but could be something to do with Alberta's independence. It is being promoted by rebel media. It's being promoted by the Jews. It's being highly funded. It is being given a lot of media support and high-level support in the administration. I believe if Alberta became independent, which is 3.5 times larger than the UK combined, with a total population of 5 million, Israel could, in effect, relocate to an area, one, that it's got an abundance of fresh water that is local, right? You don't need a desalination plant. 2, it has a source of income, which is the abundance of oil that Alberta has. The other thing that I want to make sure everyone understands is the guy that is running the independence program is a lawyer, and he was taught law at the London School of Economics, a Fabian University in London. There's too many things. There's too many things going on, right, that suggest to me, anyone with any common sense will tell you that the situation in the Levant cannot continue as it is. Jordan has now got a massive refugee problem, almost at breaking point, where not just Muslims but Christians have left Palestine, and they're in, and Jordan has been wonderful about this, right? There is something else going on. Like I say, I don't want to get involved with the geopolitics. All I'm doing is looking at it from a system engineering point of view, in the same way as I look at the difference between repeal and abolish, the system of law and how it is operated. Voiding the Acts of Union would mean there's no British Parliament, therefore there is no Balfour Agreement, therefore there is no Palestinian Mandate of 1923, therefore there is no petition of 1948. It was the British that caused all that. I don't know what's going on with Saudi Arabia, but there is something going on. And it is only my opinion, because I've seen what President Trump has done. I see him set up the Board of Peace. A lot of these people are involved with that. The conversation is at such a high level, we're never going to see what's really going on at the moment. The media are not telling you the truth about the devastation. And just to let you know, these missiles and rockets that are hitting Israel are precision rockets hitting their targets to within 1 inch, right, of their targeted area. They are absolutely, the 40 aircraft that were destroyed, they hit every single one of them. They hit every single bunker that they aimed at. 2 or 3 missiles hitting exactly the same spot to punch through and destroy the aircraft. Those were the most sophisticated fighting aircraft in the world. There is nothing, as far as I know, better than them. They've taken out the radar systems, which I have mentioned on this show before, right? I just want you to think outside of the box. I am not a conspiracy theorist. I am a systems engineer saying to myself, how would you put this problem right? And the only way you can achieve it is to put it back the way it was, well in excess of 100 years ago. Before the British created it, the British no longer have an empire. The British are failing. The British and Israel are as one. And I believe that President Trump knows exactly what they have done. I believe that President Trump knows that Israel was responsible. I know that the Saudi Arabian prince was very upset that Saudi Arabia got the blame for it, right? So I believe that they, how can I put this? Fuck about and find out, right? I think you have now got a team of the best military professionals in the world on a number of different fronts and a number of different systems saying we need to reset this system and take these people out, right? And I believe the Jews will be living in peace. I believe if they went to Alberta, they would be protected by the United States of America. I believe Greenland is part of that, and the dome protection that they want to put in place. And the Jews will then be told to wind their necks in and behave themselves. And we know what's gone on, right? That's my opinion. You may not like my opinion. It's a system engineering opinion, nothing more. It's not a political stance. It's not a dig at the Jews, because most of the Jews don't want anything to do with Zionism. Zionism is anti-Christian. And the people that are seeking to destroy England seek to destroy England because of its common law jurisdiction and our ancient rights and privileges that they cannot take off us unless they regionalise England and destroy England and restate you as British, which means you have no rights as an Englishman, a Scot, a Welsh, an Irishman, or a Cornishman, right? And I think, because I've seen a video where President Trump has mentioned England and said, no one talks about England anymore. Why is that? Right? When he first got into power, he put a notice up and said he said the Bill of Rights was written in English. The national language of America is English. And he's done more, I believe, than anyone else. I'm not suggesting to you it's going to be easy what they're attempting to carry out. But if you remember that Israel, from the late 1800s to early 1900s, had a Zionist committee, and they considered a number of areas in the world for Israel, for a home for the Jews, right? Even though there's a considerable amount of Jews who say, no. That's not the way that Judaism works. Zionism and Judaism are two different things. Judaism and Christianity are two different things, right? And they're not compatible with each other. Zionism is neither compatible with Judaism or with Christianity. So I want everyone to understand there is something weird going on. I absolutely believe through other sources, and I do look at other sources, that Israel has had most of its defensive resources taken out. But you still need an excuse for the American population to say, these people have done this to you, not us, right? But we've had to solve this problem without going into a global war. I believe America are going to withdraw, but they will not withdraw until the Israeli defense system is absolutely taken out. And then Israel needs to negotiate. And I do believe that the desalination plants in Israel is key to this. So just to make sure you're all aware of that. How many Zionist awards has Trump received? Quite a few. Listen, whatever happens with this type, if I'm right, there'll be plenty of things that you won't like Trump doing, but you can't get through A, B, C, D, E, F, G to get to your operational goal unless you do some things that people will not like. That's the way I see it. And I want to make sure I emphasize this. He is America first, right? He's not interested in the UK. I think he's got an absolute love for England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, and the people of Britain, right? But he's got absolutely no love for the British and the British regime and the British establishment. I believe, and I've said this a million times on my show before, the British were involved with 9/11, right? And especially where the BBC knew about Building 7 coming down 20 minutes before it did. It don't take a lot of working out, right? So that is basically what I say to you. I am going to be on the 412 channel tonight. So before I do that, I wanted to try and show you this, and hopefully the thing won't butt out. I'm going to try and show you this and play it, right? And you tell me what you think of this. I am going to butt in where I can. Tell me if you can hear it when it starts working.
In June 1974, a very, very strange thing happened in Britain. Heathrow Airport, then as now the busiest airport in the UK and one of the most important in the world, was suddenly invaded. In a fast operation, 400 British military personnel plus police began to isolate the airport, using armoured vehicles to set up checkpoints and roadblocks, while armed soldiers and police began checking vehicles and drivers' documents. The managers of Heathrow had not been forewarned, and soon one of the world's largest and busiest airports was basically under military jurisdiction. The official reason given to the press was that this was an anti-terrorist operation, the 1970s suffering badly with terrorist outrages globally. However, when news of this action, codenamed Operation Marmion, reached 10 Downing Street, the home of the British Prime Minister, it caused considerable alarm in the Prime Minister's office. The Prime Minister, Harold Wilson, had not been informed of such an operation due to take place. This was unprecedented. To Wilson, Marmion signalled that his fears, which had been growing for several years, were justified. To Wilson and others around him, it seemed as though the army was sending a signal to Downing Street. It was flexing its power to show how it could, if necessary, stage a coup and take power. Ludicrous though this statement may seem to us over 50 years later, the Army's takeover of Heathrow Airport deeply concerned the government of the day, a government that was becoming very unpopular in some quarters, and the Prime Minister, Harold Wilson, suspected at the time was being intrigued against by a group of right-wing political, intelligence and military leaders that were seemingly debating direct action to remove Wilson and the Labour Party from office. The story began during Wilson's first period as Prime Minister in the 1960s. In October 1964, Wilson managed to form a Labour government with only a majority of 4 MPs. And in March 1966, Wilson decided to hold a fresh general election, hoping this time to win a larger majority. Wilson was quite a popular figure at the time, very good on television, and famous for his pipe and Gamex raincoat, his warm working-class accent contrasting with the usual privately educated politicians that Britain had become accustomed to. Wilson defeated Conservative Party leader Edward Heath, securing 363 seats in the House of Commons, against 253 for the Conservatives and 12 for the Liberal Party. But despite having a large majority, the country was in crisis, mostly economic in nature. With falling exports and strike actions, the value of the pound continued to fall, and it was clear that by the end of 1967 there would be a massive trade deficit, with an increasing drain of Britain's gold reserves. In November 1967, Wilson devalued the pound from $2.80 to $2.40. During 1968, Wilson cut government spending by £750 million and raised tariffs on cigarettes, alcohol and petrol, and at the same time, the trades unions demanded wage increases, with significant strike action amongst dockers and car workers, Wilson failing to reform the unions. Unemployment continued to rise, and key industries such as coal mining, shipbuilding, textiles and railways continued to contract. The gravity of the situation faced by the country caused some elements to look to a solution outside of the usual democratic avenues. On the 8th of May 1968, a secret meeting took place in London. It was arranged on the request of Cecil King, chairman of Daily Mirror newspapers and of the International Publishing Corporation, and a director of the Bank of England. King also had a very good relationship with the British intelligence services, MI5 and 6, and with the CIA in America. At the meeting also were Hugh Cudlip, the chairman of the International Publishing Group, and the other 2 men present were Sir Solly Zuckerman, the British government's chief scientific advisor, and Admiral of the Fleet, the first Earl Mountbatten of Burma, a World War II hero who had been Supreme Allied Commander, Southeast Asia, and the last Viceroy of India, and from 1959 to 65, Chief of the Defence Staff, and he had also been First Sea Lord, the head of the Royal Navy. Great uncle and mentor to the then Prince Charles. King outlined his views on the situation facing the country under Wilson's Labour government and Wilson's shortcomings as Prime Minister. MI5, the British Security Service, had maintained a file on Wilson for decades under the codename Henry Worthington, and indeed in 1964, shortly before Wilson had won the election, James Angleton, head of counterintelligence at CIA, had told MI5 that according to information he had received, Harold Wilson was a KGB agent. Angleton asked MI5 to keep the allegations out of political circles, which it did. MI5 also received further information from 2 Czechoslovak defectors, alleging that the Labour Party had been infiltrated by Soviet intelligence, providing a list of Labour MPs and trade unionists who were, allegedly, Soviet agents. This information may have been leaked to certain figures on the right in Britain, including newspaper proprietors, and we know, for example, that King had strong links to both British and US intelligence. At the London meeting in May 1968, King said that he foresaw a crisis just around the corner. Wilson's government would disintegrate, and there would be bloodshed in the streets, and the armed forces would be involved. King said the people would look to someone like Lord Mountbatten, a respected national hero, and propose that Mountbatten should become the temporary leader of a new administration to take charge of the country, to restore order and public confidence, backed by other intelligent and capable men. King then asked Mountbatten if he would agree to become that leader of a new administration under such circumstances. Mountbatten asked Zuckerman for his advice. Zuckerman said the plan amounted to treason and he left the meeting. Mountbatten also agreed that it was treason and departed. Cecil King then took the interesting step of overriding the editorial independence of the Daily Mirror, instructing the paper to publish a front-page article he had written that demanded Wilson be removed through some sort of extra-parliamentary action. The board of the International Publishing Corporation, which owned the Daily Mirror, met and demanded King's resignation. He refused, and he was dismissed by the board on the 30th of May 1968. Interestingly, King did have some support, including from the Times newspaper, its editor William Rees-Mogg calling for a coalition governance of Britain on the 8th of December 1968 in an article titled "The Danger to Britain." Lord Mountbatten's part in any putative plot appears to have been deeper than let on by many books and newspapers. The meeting was held in Mountbatten's London residence in Belgravia. Though Mountbatten reportedly backed away from involvement in a coup, research by my literary agent, the renowned biographer Andrew Loney, suggests that the Queen was aware of the coup plot and Mountbatten's part in it. The Queen was reportedly, quote, desperately worried over the whole situation and denounced the coup as, quote, rank treachery. She basically talked Mountbatten out of any further involvement. The threat posed to the British monarchy by such a plot was obvious. If such an undemocratic thing were to occur in Britain, headed by a member of the royal family, it could have precipitated a constitutional crisis, and the Queen, of course, knew this. Mountbatten was the mentor and great-uncle of the future King, Charles. The monarchy itself could have been brought down by such associations. If a plot existed, it seems to have been, according to several authors and journalists and intelligence officers, lodged within MI5 itself. Harold Wilson had become leader of the Labour Party in 1963 following the unexpected and sudden death of leader Hugh Gaitskell. In the controversial book Spycatcher, published in 1987 and initially banned under Thatcher's regime in the UK, the former deputy head of MI5, Peter Wright, recalled that Gaitskell's doctor had contacted MI5 shortly after Gaitskell's death, reporting the death as suspicious. The head of Soviet counterintelligence at MI5 had interviewed the doctor, who told him that Gaitskell had died from a disease called lupus disseminata, which attacks the body's organs. It was rare in temperate climates like Britain's, and there was no evidence that Gaitskell had been anywhere where he could have caught such a disease. MI5 sent Peter Wright to talk to the chief doctor at Porton Down, Britain's top-secret chemical and biological warfare establishment. The doctor stated that he and his staff had absolutely no idea how Gaitskell could have contracted the disease. MI5, already suspicious of Harold Wilson's loyalties, hence their file on him, suspected that Gaitskell might have been assassinated by the KGB to ensure that Wilson became Labour Party leader and led the party into a general election with a good chance he would become Prime Minister. Wilson had visited the USSR multiple times when he worked for an East-West trading organization, and MI5 feared that he had been compromised in some way by the KGB to work for Soviet interests. It would not have been the first time that the KGB had entrapped or framed Western visitors to the USSR. Wilson also maintained several friendships with Eastern European émigré businessmen, some of whom were also being watched intensely by MI5. The 1968 plot involving Lord Mountbatten and others appeared to have gone no further, but in fact plotting continued at a very high level. Notably, it appears within MI5 itself. With Harold Wilson returned to office as Prime Minister in 1974 following a general election, and as Peter Wright noted in his book Spycatcher, quote, as events moved to their political climax in early 1974 with the election of a minority Labour government, MI5 was sitting on information which, if leaked, would undoubtedly have caused a political scandal of incalculable consequences. The news that the Prime Minister himself was being investigated would, at the least, have led to his resignation. The point was not lost on some MI5 officers. End quote. Wright noted that some of his colleagues held a very dim view of Wilson. He quotes one of the younger officers saying to him in 1974, quote, Wilson's a bloody menace, and it's about time the public knew the truth. End quote. Wright states that some MI5 officers did leak details of the intelligence gathered on leading Labour Party figures, including Wilson, to sympathetic persons. Some 30 MI5 officers were known to have approved of this scheme. The June 1974 sudden takeover by elements of the British Army of Heathrow Airport caused Wilson genuine alarm. Was it a warning shot against the Prime Minister, letting him know that, if it chose, the military was more than capable of taking control of the country? Further evidence has emerged that senior retired military leaders were involved in creating private militia-type groups in the UK to assist in domestic matters should the need arise, effectively private armies. General Sir Walter Walker, who had proved extremely successful in Britain's campaign against communist terrorists in Malaya, and until 1972 was Commander-in-Chief Allied Forces Northern Europe, argued publicly that there was a, quote, communist Trojan horse in our midst, with its fellow travellers wriggling their maggoty way inside its belly, end quote. Another outspoken opponent of Wilson was David Stirling, the legendary founder of the SAS in World War II. Stirling said the left had, quote, a stead encroachment on the public enterprise system, together with the forcing of trade union members onto the executive boards of companies, and was a realizable threat of a magnitude this country has never faced before, end quote. Stirling also argued for a volunteer organization to be in place in case of a crisis. Another man urging for some direct intervention in political affairs was Brian Crozier, a journalist and a senior staff member of the secretive Information Research Department, part of the British Foreign Office during the Cold War, a propaganda department. Crozier gave talks to serving army officers discussing the benefits of military coups. Allied to the plotting and Operation Marmion, the Heathrow Airport takeover, which incidentally was repeated again in July and September 1974, again under the cover of anti-terrorist operations. There was Operation Clockwork Orange, named for the Stanley Kubrick film, which occurred from 1973 onwards. Northern Ireland at this time was a top political topic, the province in a state of civil war from 1969 between the IRA on the one side and the loyalist paramilitaries on the other, with the British Army stuck in between, trying to keep the peace. Many felt that Harold Wilson was not handling Northern Ireland properly. Particularly many serving and former army officers and intelligence officers believed Britain should be acting with a heavier hand against the IRA and others. In secret, right-wing members of the security services launched a disinformation campaign at British MPs and journalists. The Clockwork Orange group possibly included a unit of SAS made up of specially trained Northern Ireland personnel. Journalists from foreign news organisations would be given briefings and shown forged documents that purported to show that certain Labour MPs were speaking at Irish Republican rallies or were receiving secret deposits in Swiss bank accounts. It was a smear campaign, or what is called black propaganda, and it continued until 1975, throughout the period when Operation Marmion was launched 3 times by the army within England. Now, of course, ordinary soldiers taking part in these operations against Heathrow Airport genuinely thought they were taking part in anti-terrorist drills, as did the police. But of course, at the most senior level, there must have been orders coming from the plotters themselves. Operations Marmion and Clockwork Orange made Wilson fearful that he was being targeted for a military coup. Later, he would tell journalists that an element within MI5 was behind the coup and had worked to force his resignation. Wilson spoke of 2 military coups plotted against him, one in the late 1960s and the other in the mid-1970s, and as we have seen, it seems to be so. And then Wilson was gone. His second term in office had been a mixed bag economically. In 1974, the top rate of income tax was 83%. In 1975, unemployment continued to rise, passing 1 million in April. There was a global recession and stagflation caused by the 1973 oil crisis, though Wilson did manage to help ward off some of the worst of this by increasing pensions and introducing rent and price controls, and also transport subsidies. Regarding Northern Ireland, he secretly offered Libya's dictator, Colonel Gaddafi, £14 million of taxpayers' money to stop supplying arms to the IRA, but Gaddafi demanded more. This didn't become public until 2009. On the 16th of March 1976, Wilson announced that he would resign as Prime Minister, effective on the 5th of April. He was 60 years old and claimed he was exhausted both physically and mentally. Many have argued that the secret scheming against him and rumours of coup plots were the real reason for his going so dramatically and suddenly. He was replaced as Prime Minister by James Callaghan, whose government would struggle on until 1979 with the election of Margaret Thatcher. The period of Labour government under Callaghan was marked by further economic problems, leading to the famous Winter of Discontent, bodies being unburied, rubbish piled up in the streets, and endless industrial action by the unions. However, it is interesting to note that Margaret Thatcher became leader of the Conservative Party in 1975, her policies aligning very much with the coup plotters and the general outlook of the centre-right and traditional elements of British political and military society. It looked as though these groups would get what they wanted without having to revert to staging a military coup to remove a sitting Prime Minister, and indeed Thatcher won a landslide victory in 1979 and would rule for the next 11 years. As for Harold Wilson, he died from cancer and Alzheimer's disease in May 1995 at the age of 79. Many thanks for watching. Please subscribe and share, and also visit my audiobook channel, War Stories with Mark Felton. You can also help to support both of my channels at PayPal and Patreon.
So let me go back onto this. Don't forget, let me take that off again. English Constitutional Common Law Seminar. Everyone welcome. At Cewstoke Village Hall, Crooks Lane, Cewstoke, Weston-super-Mare, BS22 9XJ, Tuesday the 7th of April 2020 at 7 p.m. So don't forget, we're travelling around the country doing local events, so you don't have to travel to London or travel to wherever. So you can ask us to set this up as long as you're doing the organising and getting the information out to the local people on Facebook groups, on social media, etc. right? Or if you've got standing in parks and people that really want us to come along and explain things to them, we will. And bear in mind, this is not political. This is the education. And people need to be educated about what their constitutional and common law rights are, and the fact that they are English, Scottish, Welsh, Irish, Northern Irish and Southern Irish. And again, Southern Ireland's in trouble because it's adopted, in effect, a Roman law system. Again, I'm going to take that off. So, what does everyone think of that? Do you all understand exactly what's being said there? I'm hoping to make a cup of hot chocolate in a minute. I'll have to put my kettle on, take a couple of painkillers and get ready to go. And don't forget, if I start slurring, it's not because I'm literally abstaining from alcohol. When I have a bit of alcohol, I'm like a lunatic. I'm like, oh. So again, just to let everyone know, last week, apologies, I was sort of on and off last week, but the scan results have come back, and I have got 3 prolapse discs, and one of them is touching the sciatic nerve, right? That's why I think I said to people before, do you remember when I was standing up in a court case and I said, would you mind if I sit down and talk to you? Because I've got pains going down my legs. And also, both my legs feel like they're on fire, right? It's a really weird sensation. It feels like someone's thrown, and then in my back, occasionally, it feels like it's freezing cold, right? When I know it isn't. So there's a lot to be said for all that. Smet13, you do know alcohol is poison. Yes, thank you, Smet13. I do like a pint of Guinness and a pint of cider. I do like single malt whiskey. Oh, there's something I could show you. I'll wait till Monday night. I was really annoyed. I went to Exeter today, to Exeter Cathedral, and there was a whiskey shop there as well. So I went into the whiskey shop. There's a picture of it. I've got it there. Got every type of whiskey from all around the world, and they're selling it. I walked in there. I said, "Where's the English whiskey from the Norfolk Distillery that's 2 years on the row now been voted the best in the world? Where is it?" And they went, "Oh, we haven't got it. We can get it for you." I said, "But you've got all these other whiskies. That's the best in the world. The bottle says the English. That's a bottle of that whiskey there, right? And yet you haven't got it in a whiskey shop." The guy was wearing tartan, by the way, just to let you know. England is under attack. The Exeter Cathedral is in serious need of a repair, right? I don't think it's as bad as York Cathedral, but we are under attack as a people, and I just want to make sure everyone gets that. So hopefully, don't forget what I believe in. The Constitution is the solution. Please promote the seminar in Weston-super-Mare as much as you can, which is in Somerset on Tuesday evening, and I hope to see many of the audience there. But we want to create them all over the country. That's the whole objective of the English Constitution Society. We've got the big seminar coming up, or as I say, big set, it's a convention really, but where we'll be doing the English Constitution Society, we'll be doing the English Constitution Party, we'll be voting on some things because I want people on membership to understand what's going on. And I will say this once more, remember who you are, never surrender, we are English, and we are going to take this country back. That's it. God bless. See you all Monday evening. I'm now going over to the 412 channel, right? So just to let everyone know, the 412 channel in the stream.